In the vastness of the galaxy, the Varnex Empire stood as one of the most dominant and technologically advanced civilizations. Their sleek warships and sprawling star systems spoke of centuries of conquest and expansion. The Varnex were proud, too, proud to believe any other species could rival their supremacy. Their leaders viewed humans as primitive and disorganized, a fledgling race barely worthy of their attention. But humanity was different. Despite being relatively young in terms of interstellar travel, humans had faced hostile environments and brutal conflicts on their homeworld. Their history forged them into survivors and relentless warriors, though they rarely revealed this strength to outsiders. Instead, humanity tried to maintain peace and stability, extending diplomatic handshakes and clear warnings to alien powers about respecting human space and sovereignty. This peace was fragile. The Varnex, hungry for resources and control, eyed the newly settled human colonies in the Outer Rim. These planets were rich with rare minerals and strategic value, perfect for expanding their empire's influence. Ignoring diplomatic protocols, the Varnex dispatched scouting fleets to these worlds, demanding access and rights under threat of force. Human diplomats sent a stark message back to Varnex High Command. Do not cross these borders. Respect the treaties. Any aggression will be met with overwhelming response. The message was simple but firm, backed by silent warnings, evidence that humans possessed advanced military capabilities that could devastate even the mightiest fleets. The Varnex dismissed it as propaganda. They believed humanity was bluffing, relying on their technological superiority and numerical advantage. Varnex commanders scoffed, convinced the humans were bluffing to hide their weaknesses. The arrogance of the Varnex blinded them to the subtle signs of human preparation, covert weapons development, combat training, and alliances with other wary civilizations. Tensions escalated as Varnex ships began harassing human trade convoys and blockading outposts. Minor skirmishes broke out at the edges of contested space, each side testing the other's limits. The Varnex relished the challenge, confident they would crush human resistance easily. However, the humans surprised them. In every encounter, humans used unorthodox tactics, small, agile strike teams that moved quickly and disappeared without warning. They fought not with brute force alone, but with cunning strategy, exploiting every weakness the Varnex exposed. Humans understood the brutal reality of survival better than any other race, shaped by a history of harsh environments and warfare. Despite mounting casualties, the Varnex continued their campaign, underestimating the resolve of their adversaries. Varnex leaders ignored urgent reports from frontline commanders, warning that humans were adapting rapidly. Instead, they doubled down on arrogance, demanding total submission or annihilation of human forces. The human leadership, composed of military, strategists, scientists, and diplomats, prepared for a longer conflict. They knew the warning had been ignored, and now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. But they also hoped the Varnex would reconsider before it was too late. As the first chapter closes, the stage is set for an inevitable clash. An encounter where one side's ignorance would ignite a relentless human hunt across the stars. The Varnex had dismissed the warning, but humanity was ready, and they would not stop until the threat was extinguished. The fragile peace shattered suddenly and violently. What started as probing maneuvers by the Varnex turned into a full-scale confrontation near one of the strategically critical human-controlled outposts, known as Helios Station. Located on the edge of contested space, Helios was a vital hub for trade and military operations, and the Varnex saw it as a prize that would break human resistance. Underestimating the human defenders, a Varnex assault fleet approached Helios, with the confidence of a predator stalking weak prey. Their warships were larger, better armored, and equipped with advanced weaponry designed to overwhelm any opposition. Varnex commanders expected the station's defenses to crumble quickly, allowing them to establish control and push deeper into human territory. But the humans had anticipated this move for months. Behind the calm diplomatic facade, Helios Station was a fortress bristling with hidden weapon systems, and its defenders were trained not just to repel attacks, but to strike with precision and ruthlessness. The humans used guerrilla tactics unknown to the Varnex, deploying small agile fighter squadrons that flitted in and out of asteroid fields, launching surprise attacks on the larger Varnex ships. The battle began with a deafening barrage of energy beams and missile salvos. Varnex cruisers unleashed volleys meant to pulverize the station's defenses, but the humans' layered shields and rapid repair drones absorbed much of the damage. In response, human strike teams launched boarding pods and electronic warfare, attacks targeting key Varnex ship systems to cripple their fleet's coordination. Varnex commanders were stunned. Their most advanced warships were being disabled one by what they had assumed were mere colonists or second-rate soldiers. Human fighters exploited the station's defense grid and natural cover, weaving through the chaos with deadly precision. The Varnex soon realized this was no ordinary engagement. It was a calculated trap designed to lure them in and break their momentum. Amid the chaos, a human admiral sent a cold, clear message through intercepted communications. "You ignored the warning. This is only the beginning of the reckoning." This broadcast rippled through the Varnex fleet, shattering their morale and spreading panic among their commanders. Despite suffering heavy losses, the humans did not relent. They used coordinated strikes, disrupting the Varnex's command structure and cutting off reinforcements. Varnex captains found themselves isolated, fighting not just the humans but their own confusion and fear. The first contact firefight near Helios ended with a decisive human victory. Varnex forces scattered, their flagship damaged, and their pride deeply wounded. Back on the Varnex homeworld, the loss sent shockwaves through the ruling council. For the first time, they were forced to consider that humans might not be the weaklings they assumed. Intelligence reports detailed humans' unconventional tactics, biological enhancements, and a warrior culture forged by harsh conditions. The warning that had been ignored now screamed with deadly clarity. Still, pride made many Varnex leaders double down on their approach, preparing for retaliation rather than negotiation. But the cracks were forming. Some voices urged caution and diplomacy, warning that continued aggression might lead to annihilation. For the humans, the victory was bittersweet. They had demonstrated their strength, but knew this fight was far from over. The firefight at Helios was just a prelude to a longer, relentless campaign. The humans prepared to hunt the Varnex across the stars, using every resource and tactic at their disposal to protect their homes and send a clear message. Disregard the warning, and you will face the full fury of humanity. Following the stunning victory at Helios Station, humanity shifted from defensive survival to calculated offense. The battle had been a message, not just a warning, but a declaration. The humans were ready to hunt down anyone who threatened them. The Varnex, once invincible and feared, now found themselves the prey. Human command centers across multiple star systems buzzed with activity. Every detail of the Varnex fleets and outposts was analyzed meticulously. With their advanced data, networks, and intelligence operations, humans began mapping vulnerabilities in the Varnex Empire's sprawling territories. What emerged was a blueprint for a relentless campaign, one designed to dismantle Varnex power piece by piece. The hunt was unlike any conventional war. Instead of direct, massive fleet confrontations, humans favored surgical strikes, stealth, operations, and guerrilla tactics. Small squadrons of fighter pilots specialized in hit-and-run attacks. Elite ground forces infiltrated and sabotaged Varnex installations, crippling supply lines and communication nodes. Cyber warfare teams launched waves of hacking attacks, seizing control of Varnex drones and turning them against their own. Varnex commanders, once confident and brash, now operated in fear and confusion. Their fleets, spread thin over distant systems, found themselves isolated and vulnerable. No place was truly safe. The humans struck relentlessly and unpredictably, their forces appearing where least expected and disappearing before Varnex reinforcements could respond. The psychological impact on the Varnex was devastating. Rumors spread among their ranks of a merciless hunter spirit driving human forces. Varnex soldiers whispered of human warriors who never showed mercy, who hunted not for glory, but to eliminate the threat entirely. Stories of entire Varnex squadrons being wiped out without survivors spread like wildfire, sowing paranoia and distrust within Varnex leadership. Diplomatic efforts by some Varnex factions to negotiate ceasefires were met with cold refusal by human officials. The humans had made it clear there would be no peace until the Varnex respected human sovereignty and withdrew from contested territories. The humans' patience had run out. Years of warnings had been ignored, and now humanity was determined to end the threat decisively. Amid this relentless campaign, human forces showcased extraordinary innovation. They used captured Varnex technology against them, adapting alien, ship designs and weapons to improve their own fleets. Scientists developed bio-enhancements for soldiers to increase endurance and reflexes, while commanders devised new tactics combining psychological warfare with precision strikes. The Varnex tried to adapt, forming new alliances with other alien civilizations and upgrading their defenses. But human adaptability outpaced them. Every new weapon or strategy introduced by the Varnex was met with an immediate and effective human countermeasure. It was a deadly game of chess, with humans anticipating moves and striking with ruthless efficiency. As the hunt deepened, the humans uncovered secrets about Varnex vulnerabilities, weaknesses in their bioengineered soldiers, fragile supply chains dependent on rare minerals, and political fractures within their ruling elite. Humans exploited these fractures, inciting rebellion and dissent among oppressed Varnex colonies. By the end of this phase, the Varnex Empire was no longer the unstoppable force it once was. It was battered, scattered, and hunted relentlessly. The message from humanity was clear. Ignoring their warning came at a price, one paid in relentless pursuit, strategic annihilation, and total dominance. The galaxy watched closely, some alien civilizations taking notes, others quietly reconsidering their own stance toward humanity. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were hunters, merciless, strategic, and united. As the relentless human hunt tore through the Varnex Empire's territories, desperation gripped the once mighty alien race. The Varnex leadership realized their old tactics and technological superiority were no longer enough to halt humanity's advance. The campaign that had begun as a confident conquest had become a fight for survival. Every defeat underscored the brutal reality. Humans were not just skilled warriors. They were something far more dangerous, adaptable, relentless, and utterly unyielding. In their desperation, the Varnex turned to untested and dangerous technologies. They accelerated experimental weapon programs, energy weapons with unpredictable side effects, autonomous drones driven by artificial intelligence, and bioengineered super soldiers enhanced beyond natural limits. Some factions within the Varnex hierarchy even proposed alliances with other powerful alien races, hoping to combine forces against the human threat. Yet, every new weapon and alliance failed to stem the tide. Humans rapidly adapted to each development, often using captured Varnex technology to craft countermeasures. Human engineers reverse-engineered alien tech, blending it with their own innovations to create hybrid systems optimized for the brutal guerrilla warfare that defined the hunt. Each Varnex advance was met with an equally swift and devastating human response. Amid this brutal exchange, an intelligence coup by the humans revealed a chilling truth about their preparation. Humans had been planning for conflicts like this for generations. Deep within human society, secret programs had been underway, focusing on creating biological enhancements to increase endurance, reflexes, and cognitive processing speed in soldiers. These enhancements gave humans an edge in battle unmatched by most alien species. More than that, humans had a cultural code that embraced both patience and ferocity. Their long history of surviving on a hostile world, fraught with predators, natural disasters, and harsh environments, bred a mentality of endurance mixed with merciless efficiency when provoked. Unlike many alien civilizations that prized honor or restraint, humans were willing to do whatever it took to ensure survival, including psychological warfare, sabotage, and total annihilation of enemies. A Varnex spy embedded deep within a human outpost uncovered fragments of these programs and philosophies. Reporting back to the Varnex High Council, the spy described a species that was not only technologically formidable, but also driven by a ruthless cultural imperative. The revelation shook the Varnex leaders, who began to question the viability of continued conflict. Meanwhile, the human campaign exploited emerging fissures within the Varnex ranks. Some Varnex colonies, tired of endless war and harsh rule, began to rebel, fueled by human-inspired propaganda and covert support. Internal dissent spread as factions debated whether to continue fighting a war that seemed increasingly unwinnable. Despite these fractures, the Varnex Council remained stubbornly divided. Pride and fear led some leaders to call for all-out war, refusing to acknowledge that they were facing an enemy unlike any before. Others pleaded for peace talks, realizing the only chance for survival was to negotiate terms with humanity. As this internal struggle unfolded, human forces pressed their advantage. They launched targeted strikes on Varnex command centers and key infrastructure, breaking communications and sowing chaos. The relentless pressure left the Varnex leadership scrambling to maintain control, while human soldiers continued hunting with a brutal efficiency that made clear the warning had been ignored at a catastrophic cost. By the end of this phase, the Varnex stood on the brink, militarily weakened, politically fractured, and psychologically shaken. The humans had revealed themselves not just as a formidable foe, but as a force driven by a survivalist mindset that tolerated no mercy. The galaxy began to take notice that the hunters were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. After months of relentless conflict and brutal attrition, the balance of power in the war between humans and the Varnex Empire began to shift decisively. The once mighty Varnex, battered by continuous human offensives, found their resources stretched, thin and their morale crumbling. What had started as arrogant aggression was now a desperate struggle to hold on to their remaining territories. The tide of the war was turning, and humanity's relentless hunt was nearing its devastating climax. The turning point came when human strategists launched a bold, coordinated offensive on the Varnex capital system, Draxon Prime, a heavily fortified bastion believed by the Varnex to be impregnable. This operation was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a multi-pronged assault combining space combat, ground infiltration, and cyber warfare with surgical precision. Months of careful intelligence gathering and preparation culminated in this all-out push. The human fleet, composed of diverse ships including captured Varnex vessels, retrofitted with human technology, converged on Draxon Prime. Using advanced stealth technology and deception tactics, they slipped through outer defenses, catching Varnex forces off guard. Meanwhile, human special forces deployed on the planet's surface, infiltrating key military installations and communication hubs to disable command and control. At the same time, cyber warfare teams launched massive attacks against the Varnex network, spreading viruses that crippled their automated defenses and spread confusion through their ranks. This multi-layered assault overwhelmed the Varnex on every front. Communications broke down, reinforcements failed to coordinate, and panic spread rapidly through the enemy lines. Within the chaos, humans exploited every weakness with ruthless efficiency. Varnex warships found themselves isolated and destroyed, one by one. Ground battles were fierce but swift, with human soldiers displaying unparalleled resilience and tactical innovation. The cultural tenacity that had allowed humans to survive and thrive in hostile environments became a decisive advantage. The fall of Draxon Prime sent shockwaves through the Varnex Empire. Losing their capital was a catastrophic blow, not only militarily but symbolically. It shattered the illusion of Varnex invincibility and sparked widespread unrest in other systems. Rebel factions, emboldened by the human victory and support, began openly defying Varnex rule. Internal dissent deepened as fear and desperation took hold. The Varnex Council was forced to confront the grim reality. Their empire was crumbling, and continued resistance would only lead to total annihilation. Some leaders advocated for surrender and negotiated peace, but hardliners clung to pride and vowed to fight to the bitter end. The empire's unity fractured further, accelerating its decline. Meanwhile, humanity's leadership faced difficult choices. Despite the victories, they knew that the war was far from over. The humans' code of survival and relentless pursuit meant they would press their advantage until the Varnek's threat was permanently neutralized. Yet, they also recognized the need to avoid total destruction of the Varnek's people, hoping to reshape the Empire into a stable and peaceful neighbor. The turning tide in the war became a defining moment for the galaxy. Other alien civilizations watched closely, realizing that humans were no longer a fledgling race but a dominant force capable of reshaping galactic power dynamics. The relentless human hunt had become a war for survival, and humanity was winning. Part 5 closes. The Varnek's empire lies in ruins, its future uncertain. The humans, fierce and unyielding, stand ready to deliver the final blows or extend the hand of peace, depending on how the remnants of the Varneks respond. The galaxy waits with bated breath for the final chapter of this epic conflict. The final phase of the brutal conflict between humans and the Varnek's empire marked the reckoning that had been long foretold. After years of relentless hunting, battles, and strategic gambits, the Varneks stood shattered, their empire fractured and vulnerable. Humanity's unyielding pursuit had brought the enemy to the brink of collapse. But with the victory within reach, the fate of both civilizations hung in the balance. In the aftermath of the fall of their capital and the fracturing of their empire, the Varnek's leadership faced an existential crisis. Divided and desperate, they scrambled to unify their remaining forces. Some factions insisted on fighting to the last breath, driven by pride and vengeance. Others recognized the futility of further bloodshed and sought negotiation, hoping to preserve what little remained of their civilization. Humans, on the other hand, remained resolute but measured. Their campaign had proven their might and determination, but many human leaders understood that annihilation of the Varneks was not the ultimate goal. The objective had always been to ensure future safety and establish a new order in the region, one where humans would no longer be threatened or ignored. Negotiations began in a tense, heavily guarded neutral zone, brokered by representatives from other alien civilizations who had watched the conflict unfold. The talks were fraught with suspicion, bitterness, and the deep wounds of war, but they also represented a fragile hope for peace. Humans demanded reparations, territorial concessions, and guarantees that the Varneks would never again threaten human worlds. The Varneks, humbled and weakened, had little choice but to agree to many of these terms. During the negotiations, hidden within the back channels of diplomacy, human operatives ensured that hardline Varneks factions were kept in check. The humans were unwilling to risk a resurgence of hostility from any remnants seeking revenge. Intelligence networks monitored Varneks' movements, ready to intervene if diplomacy failed. Simultaneously, humanitarian efforts began to aid war-torn Varneks colonies. Humans recognized that lasting peace required rebuilding trust and helping those who had suffered the most during the conflict. This pragmatic approach won support from more moderate Varneks factions and alien observers, setting a foundation for reconciliation. The aftermath of the war saw a dramatic realignment in galactic politics. The once dominant Varneks empire was reduced to a shadow of its former self, now a client state under human influence. Humanity's reputation transformed from a potential threat to a dominant peacekeeper, albeit a stern and uncompromising one. This new balance of power altered alliances and deterred other hostile forces from provoking conflict with humans. Despite the peace, the scars of the conflict remained deep. Entire planets bore the marks of war. Populations mourned, lost, loved. Ones and old grudges simmered beneath the surface. Humans remained vigilant, aware that peace was fragile and that future threats could arise. But the message was unmistakable. Humanity would not tolerate aggression and would hunt down any who dared to challenge their sovereignty. In the final scenes of the story, humanity stands united and stronger than ever, having survived near extinction and transformed into a formidable force. The Varneks, humbled and constrained, begin a tentative path toward rebuilding under new terms. The galaxy recognizes a profound lesson. Ignoring humanity's warnings invites relentless consequences. The story closes with a powerful reminder that survival demands respect and caution, and that humanity's tenacity and ferocity, born from harsh origins, make them relentless hunters, merciless when provoked but pragmatic when peace is possible.